Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're taking a look at this week's official prices. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. Alright, so we got a ton of stuff to get through here for Warhammer, Horus Heresy, and then also a lot of stuff for Old World as well. Quite a bit of the Old World stuff is direct only, so we're going to kind of separate that off towards the end. But getting started here, we have the brand new hardback book, Horus Heresy, The Battle for Beta Garmon, and it is $60 for this book, right in line with what you would expect. Alright, and then we recently saw the new big box for Solar Auxilia come out, and now we're seeing a lot of those individual units and then a bunch of new stuff as well. So first we have the Horus Heresy Solar Auxilia Las Rifle section, and this is 20 models in the box, and it comes with like the leader and comms options built in for like, I think it's each 10, and it is $75 for 20 of these. $75 for 20. So that seems more in line with like the Space Marine prices, which seems a little bit higher than what I was expecting, but it is 20 models for 75 bucks. So it's still a lot cheaper than 40K, but for some reason I was thinking this was going to be priced a little bit different than it is. But I think overall 75 bucks for 20 models really works out to about $37.50 for 10, and that is substantially cheaper than the rest of the stuff Games Workshop sells. All right, and then we have the Solar Auxilia Tactical Command section. So this is 5 models in the set. Comes with like some super cool sculpts, very cool models. And again, this was featured in the new box set. $35 for 5 of these. All right, and then we have the Solar Auxilia Veletaris Veterans. So 60 bucks for them. There's 10 in a set right here. And then, of course, they all have like the special weapons. Definitely some cool models right here. But again, we see a stark difference between the price for like your basic troopers, $37.50 for 10, versus these guys, $60 for 10. Or the command section, $35 for 5. All right, and then we have the Horus Heresy Solar Auxilia Malcador. So this is the one I was really curious about. These tanks are big, they're chunky, they're very cool. So I wasn't sure where exactly these were going to fall, like at a price point. And also kind of guesstimating the launch box value. But the Solar Auxilia Malcador is $90 USD, 90 bucks for this bad boy. So like your standard Leman Russ for 40K is 65 bucks. Something like the Rogel Dorn, I believe, comes in at $95. So 90 bucks for this seems right in line with like your 40K prices. And no surprises here. Very cool tank. Definitely an awesome kit. All right, and then next we have the Solar Auxilia Leman Russ Assault and Strike tanks. So I wasn't sure if this was going to actually be 2 separate kits or just one kit that could build either. Of course, like the first line of the article is 2 separate kits, but I did kind of like rush through this yesterday as I was trying to like take care of some loose ends to prepare for my trip to Adepticon. But that being said, each of these kits right here is basically like the same chassis and then has some like various options, similar to what they did initially for the 40K Leman Russ. You had 2 separate variants of the tank, and then eventually they raised the price slightly and then combined the kits into one. So you ended up with like a ton of extra bits, extra turrets, all kinds of cool stuff. But initially it was 2 separate kits, and that's how this is as well. So it is $65 for either of these 2 kits, which it is a nice kit. It's a very, very cool tank. Definitely a fan of this. But considering it doesn't come with sponsons and it's also just like the one build for the kit, this feels more expensive than what you get for like a Leman Russ in 40K. So out of all the prices for this stuff right here, I think this one is the one that jumps out at me the most as being just like a little bit higher than it probably should be, especially considering it doesn't come with like your second options, and then also doesn't even include like any of the sponsons or anything like that, which I understand you don't like actually use in Horus Heresy, but just the fact that there's like so much more that comes with your 40K tanks. And obviously we can draw like a direct correlation and price comparison with the Leman Russ, that this thing seems like a sort of like stealth price increase. Now, I love the overall look of this, and I do plan on taking some of the ones from the box set, putting some of the extra sponsons I have from 40K on them, and then running them as 40K Leman Russes with some slight modifications, and I think they're going to look awesome. But that being said, this definitely feels like a expensive tank. All right, and then next we have the Dracosan Armored Transport. So this is the one from the box set, 90 bucks for this bad boy. This thing is super cool, definitely a huge fan of this. But also just seeing like the individual prices on this stuff now after that box set came out, and then those box sets still being available, really just shows you how much value was in those boxes over MSRP. I mean, there's some massive savings once you see the individual prices of these things. All right, and then we have the Horus Heresy Solar Auxilia Athean Heavy Sentinel, and this one to me is just a straight up shocker. 60 bucks USD for this thing. It's definitely a cool model. It's definitely a cool kit. I'm looking forward to seeing like some conversions and everything. Again, it was in the box set, which is awesome, but 60 bucks for this definitely seems expensive to me. And I don't mean just like relative to plastic toy soldiers at the dollar store. I mean like relative to Games Workshop stuff. Now, maybe once I see how big this actually is, once I open it up, get my hands on it. But the idea of this thing being priced as much as like one of the tanks especially when like the 40k Sentinels are closer to like, I think $40 or something like that. This feels way overpriced. All right, and then we have Renegades, Lord of Access, and this is the hardback novel for Slaaneshi fans out there. $30 for this bad boy, right in line with what you'd expect. All right, and then we are shifting over to the old world, but these first couple items are either like books, dice, or plastic kits, and these are going to be available still from like your regular retailers, and then we're going to get into the direct only stuff. All right, so we had the Battalion, Orcs and Goblin Tribes, and this is $170 for this plastic box. And this is all old models coming back, $170, and it is a ton of models in the box set. This would be like your core starting force if you're looking to get into Orcs and Goblins for Warhammer the Old World. All right, and then jumping around here a bit, we have the Arcane Journal for Orcs and Goblins next, and this is $27 for this softback book. All right, and then the last item that we have will be available for like regular retail purchase is the dice. So the Orcs and Goblins dice are $42 for the set, and that is 20 dice in the set, and that includes like your scatter and artillery dice as well. Now a quick message from today's sponsor. CMO Games has been selling Games Workshop products online for over 20 years. They carry the full line of Games Workshop products, including Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Blood Bowl, paint tools, and more. Almost all Games Workshop products are priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games takes pre-orders for most Games Workshop products released at their earliest date possible. 12:01 a.m. on Saturday, they go live. Most of these pre-order products are also priced at 15% off MSRP. CMO Games offer free shipping in the US 48 with an order of $50 or more. Their customer service is top-notch and they ship most orders within 24 hours. Visit CMOGames.com using the affiliate link in the description and let them know that you heard about CMO Games from Warhammer Man. Now back to the video. All right, and then shifting gears here to the direct only stuff, which means you're not going to be able to get the same discount. You have to order it directly from Games Workshop or special order from your store. We had the Orcs and Goblins Tribe reference cards, so $27 for those cards. And then there's an absolute ton on this stuff right here. So we're only going to talk about like the big stuff, and then the individual prices we'll just see on Saturday. All right, so we have the brand new Black Orc Bigboss character. So this is $36 and this comes in resin. And keep in mind, all this stuff is like a mix of resin and metal, but this one is resin specifically and brand new. All right, and then we have the Warboss on Wyvern coming back, and this one's coming back in resin for the first time at $78. And then we have the Troll Hag coming back in resin from Forge World as well, $93 for the Troll Hag. And then we had the regular Giant coming back at $78 in Forge World resin. And then the Bone Grinder Giant coming back in Forge World resin for $230 for the Bone Grinder Giant. So don't get me wrong, this is a big model, but $230 for this resin model just seems crazy to me. It is awesome to see him coming back, and a lot of people would have been unable to get a hold of this, weren't in the hobby when it was available, or had one back in the day and don't have it anymore, and they were basically impossible to get. But $230 for this, especially when I compare it to just how awesome the new Giant kit is and less than $200 with tons of extra options and in plastic, this just seems wild to me. But very cool models, glad to see them coming back. There's a ton of other stuff right here, but it's just too much to go through in this video. If you have something in specific you need to know about ahead of time or want to know about ahead of time, I'll be glad to answer it in the comments. Otherwise, we'll just see everything on Saturday when we go through it. So definitely a lot of cool stuff coming out this week. If you're into Orcs and Goblins, there is a ton to pick from. It's absolutely crazy seeing this much stuff all come out at once. But a nice core force now with the new Battalion box, 73 models in total. And then also like the Astra Militarum and just all of that line dropping at one time. Let me know what you're most excited about, what you're going to be picking up. Always like to hear back from you guys in the comments. And of course, special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring the video. Check out the link in the description to save 15% on Games Workshop products. But that's it for today. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and there is a lot on the menu this week, but I can't wait for Adepticon, and I'm out of here.